Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Diane Deziel, and today we're continuing the skirt pattern. We're doing another panel skirt, but this time we'll add flare at the bottom. If you follow from the beginning, we started with the basic skirt. We did the panel skirt, and from the panel skirt we will add the flare. So today I'm using again the same plan, but this is the last time. We'll use the panel skirt and we'll add the flare. To do that style 102, I'll use two techniques. The first one that we're using since the beginning, doing the plan and tracing the pattern piece. And for the back, I'll use a different technique, doing it directly from the sloper. For that 102 style, I changed a little thing. It's the opening system. If you notice, my back will be unfold. So I did place my zipper, a lap zipper, on the side seam. Because I just talked about the opening system that is not going to be on the center back anymore, I'm right away going to cancel those notches. And I'm going to change the information. It's not a pair anymore. It's going to be cut one time on the fold of the fabric. So I'm going to put my information for the fold of the fabric. Also, when we do have a back piece that is on fold, we're not going to place a notch at the waist level exactly on the center back, but because it's the back, we'll place a notch 5 millimeters away from the center back. So when we have the full piece, we have 1 centimeter distance between the two notches. In inches, it would be 3/16 inch, so I have my 3/8 inch between the two notches. Now we have to put the information or the new information for the zipper, the opening, on the side seam, following the curve, always the same measurement, so 18 centimeter or 7 1/4 inches. Now about the style, I already put a sticker over my style number. I will now put them for the back piece. Put my new style number, that is number 102. Now for this style, I'm going to give you a measurement, the measurement that I'm adding for the flare at the bottom, but you don't have to respect my measurement. It could be bigger or smaller, no problem at all. The only important thing to remember is to add the same amount to the center front piece and to the side piece, so on each side of the style line. When you do add to the side seam, today I'll use the same measurement, but if you use a different measurement, it's okay too. The important to remember again is to add the same amount on the front piece and on the back piece. This way, your seam, in that case the princess seam, is going to stay centered into your flare. For this style, I'm going to start the flare from the pivot of the dart in the front. I'm going to start my flare at the hip notch for the side seam, and I'm going to start the flare for the princess line in the back at the pivot of the dart. Now I give you the measurement I'll be using for my flare. 10 centimeter or 4 inches. Now to add my flare, I'm going to measure on the bottom line 10 centimeter on each side of the princess line. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your ruler on the princess line, the 0 at the pivot point. You're going to measure that princess line all the way to the bottom. I'm going to hold my pivot at the 0 point and pivot your ruler until you touch the mark that you did for the 10 centimeter flare at the bottom. Now you're going to trace your line, your flare, until the 59 centimeter or the length of the middle line. You stop there, do a little mark. Why do we stop at that measurement? Because when it's sewn, the fabric is going to fall back exactly at the middle line position. Guess what? We have to do exactly the same thing on the other side of the princess line. Now to make sure that we don't create point at the bottom of the skirt, I'm going to ask you to put your ruler square on the flare that you just add and trace a square for maybe 1 or 2 centimeters. And you do that on both sides. Now you could trace from that square line until the center or the original princess line and the bottom point. Now we're going to report the level of the notch on both lines, because this middle line that was combined to both pieces doesn't exist anymore. We will have one princess line with the flare that belongs to the center front piece, and we have the other princess line with the flare that belongs to the side panel. Now I'm going to report the level of the notch. Now what I'm missing on my plan is my flare on the side seam. So exactly the same way, I'm going to measure from my front side seam 10 centimeter. Now again the same way, I'm going to measure from where I want to add the flare. This time is the notch at the hip level. I'm putting my 0 there. I'm going to measure my segment all the way to the bottom. Then hold the 0 at the hip level. Pivot your ruler until you reach the reference with the ruler. And we're going to trace until the measurement that I found on my segment. To connect this new line with the original side seam of the skirt, I'll do the same thing. So 90 degrees from the new line, I trace for 1 or 2 centimeters, then finish the line with the French curve. Now you might find me a little colorful today, but I'm using another color to trace arrow, showing you the contour of each piece. The first piece, the center front piece, is starting of course at the center front and goes all the way until the flare. This is my center front piece. Now the second piece, the side piece, is going from that flare line all the way to the side seam flare line. So now when you're ready to trace, no more confusion. You know you have still 2 pieces, first one and second one. I did put a second layer of paper and my cork under. I'm now going to pin my paper. Then we're ready to trace the first piece, center front piece. Here, just a little precision. I did use the original line of my skirt over here at the bottom, not the flare for the side panel. Just like the other style, we're going to indicate the grain line. We could remove the pin and lift the plan. Now we retrace the line. The only straight and continuous line will be the center front. All the 3 other sides will be dotted line. Now we're going to trace the grain line and report all the information. Now the seam allowance, I'm going to use the normal or regular seam allowance at the waist and at the princess line. But for the hem, I'm going to reduce the measurement a little bit because it's curved a bit. And the more curved is your hem, the smaller should be your hem. For this one, I'm going to make it 3 cm or 1 inch and 1/8. Then we're ready to cut. Now, if you did cut my little booklet or document that I did for the skirt, you might have noticed that at the bottom, the hem is going in an angle. This angle is going to depend a lot on how much you have for the flare and also the length of the skirt. But if you want to know if you have to cut an angle or not, take the skirt and fold your pattern on about 5 centimeters on a straight line, touching the exact hemline at the side of the pattern, and look at the side seam. If you have something that's coming out just like that, you see the white part, that means you have to cut it out and you will have an angle on your pattern. Now we do the notch for the hem on one side only, the princess line, the pivot, and remember to do the half notch at the center front waist level. First piece is done. Now we're ready to retrace the side panel piece. It's a very wide piece because you have a flare on both sides, so make sure you have enough paper under. So I could pin my paper and trace all around. Now we indicate the grain line. Then you could remove your pin and lift the plan. We will start by the grain line, then retrace or report all information. Now we retrace the lines, and here it's all dotted line. Then we put the seam allowance, and I will use the same amount that I put for my center front piece, so my 3 cm or 1 1/8 inch for the hem. Now a little detail. On the side seam of the side panel, we're going to put a seam allowance of 2 cm or 3/4 of an inch because we want to sew a regular zipper. Here again, before to do my notch, I'm going to fold my hem on both sides to find the little jug that I could remove for the hem. And again, we're doing it on about 5 cm folding, and you cut whatever's coming out. Now the notches, you need to indicate the hem line on both sides, 2 notches at the princess line, and 2 notches on the side seam. We have the hip and we have the zipper opening. To these notches, we'll add 2 more for the unusual seam allowance value. We'll indicate it at the waist and at the bottom. Now the front pattern is finished. You have your center front piece and your side piece. And for the back piece, I want to show you a different technique to get your piece. And for that, you come back and watch my next video. That's it for today. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.